Hey, future TESOL teachers, welcome to this explainer. Let's get you completely ready to, just absolutely crush this educational psychology exam. I know looking at a mountain of lecture notes can feel incredibly overwhelming, but today we're going to break down these foundational concepts step by step. We're going to use simple English, clear, everyday examples from the classroom, and build up your understanding so you can confidently tackle those multiple choice and short essay questions.
To do that, we're building a mental concept map today. We'll be looking at Section 1, Defining Psychology, Section 2, Defining Education, Section 3, Merging the two fields, and finally, Section 4, Scope and Utility.
All right, let's dive right into our first section, Defining Psychology, the first building block. So pay super close attention here because this is classic MCQ material. Psychology comes from two Greek roots, psyche, which means the soul or the mind, and logos, meaning science or study. So way back in its earliest days, psychology was literally thought of as the study of the soul. Remember those two words, psyche and logos? They're basically your starting line.
But of course, over time, that definition evolved. We moved from studying the unseen soul to W.B. Kolesnik's modern view, which defines it simply as the science of human behavior. Just think of it like this. It's the science of observing why a student might act out during quiet reading or why another student is perfectly focused. It's all about observable behavior.
Now, C.V. Good has a really brilliant definition too. He calls psychology the study of adjustments of the organism to a changing environment. Picture a shy ESL student who just moved to a new country, trying to adapt to a really noisy, interactive group project in your classroom. Psychology is studying how that student creatively adjusts their behavior to survive and hopefully thrive in that new environment.
And we've got to remember, pure psychology is a hard science. It acts as a positive science based on real data. It's empirical, meaning it relies on experiments and observations, not just guesses. It's a systematic study using actual measurements and tools. Think of it kind of like how you'd rigorously measure your own students' test score improvements over a semester using a very structured rubric.
So the main idea is, psychology is the scientific, measurable study of how humans behave, think, and adjust to the complex world around them. All right, let's move on to Section 2, Defining Education, our second building block.
Okay, this is a massive exam point, so let's use the rule of 3 for these Latin roots. Again, super high probability for your multiple choice questions. First, we have educere, which means to lead out or draw out a student's innate hidden capacities. Next is educare, meaning to bring up or raise a child to a new level. And finally, educatum, which is the actual physical act of teaching or training. So that's draw out, bring up, and the act of teaching.
Now, if we look at how history's great thinkers defined education, notice the beautiful common thread among them. Vivekananda talked about manifesting perfection. Gandhi focused on drawing out the best in a child. Froebel called it making the internal external. Dewey said education is life, and Pestalozzi emphasized natural development. You see, true education isn't just you, the teacher, pouring English vocabulary words into an empty head. It's the active process of drawing out and developing the incredible potential that's already inside them.
So, the main idea is education is the deliberate, nurturing process of raising up a learner and drawing out their innate natural capabilities.
Moving right along to Section 3, Merging the two fields to create educational psychology. We're bringing C.V. Good back for this one. He gives us a brilliant two-pronged definition for educational psychology. First, we investigate a psychological problem in the classroom, like, say, why a student has severe test anxiety. Second, we practically apply psychological principles to actually solve that problem, like teaching them breathing techniques or adjusting our assessment methods. Identify the problem, then apply the science to fix it.
And this brilliantly illustrates the difference for your short essay answers. If an exam asks you to compare them, just remember this. Pure psychology is a positive science. It systematically observes and states the facts of human behavior exactly as it is. Educational psychology, though, is a practical science. It takes those facts off the shelf and actively applies them to help teachers, parents, and students succeed in the real world.
So the main idea is, educational psychology takes the pure, hard science of human behavior and practically applies it to solve your everyday teaching and learning challenges. Okay, down to the final section, and this one is an absolute goldmine for short essay questions. Section 4, Scope and Utility, or as I like to call it, Mapping the House We Built.
When we talk about the scope, we're basically asking about the boundaries of the subject, and it rests cleanly on 3 pillars. First, the learner.
That's understanding the student's mind and their background. Second, the learning process, understanding the mental mechanics of exactly how they absorb information. And third, the learning situation, understanding the classroom environment, the lighting, the mood, peer interactions. Basically the who, the how, and the where.
To get slightly more specific for those essays, a committee from the American Scientific Council actually expanded those 3 basic pillars into 5 distinct, official areas of focus.
If you can list these 5 areas on your exam, you are going to score highly. They are human growth and development, which looks at how a child matures physically and emotionally. Then, learning, which is the actual theory of acquiring knowledge. Personality and adjustment, which deals with their social interactions and mental health. Measurement and evaluation. This is how we as teachers properly design fair tests to check their progress. And finally, techniques and methods of study, looking at the scientific research of educational problems.
So the main idea is, the scope of educational psychology is incredibly broad. It gives us a complete toolkit to understand the learner's mind, the mechanics of how learning actually happens, and how to purposely design our classroom environment. And that brings us to the ultimate utility of this subject, divided into cultural aims and professional aims. As you head into your exam, I really want you to ask yourself, how will mastering these concepts not only help you check the right boxes and pass this test, but ultimately transform you into a highly effective professional educator? Because understanding the psychology behind the learning, well, that's the real secret to mastering the beautiful chaos of your future TESOL classroom. Good luck on your exams. You are gonna do great.